JB here from our fourth consulting, coming to you with an unfortunate conclusion to episode 3. Unfortunately, the national park, the Junee National Park, is landlocked by private land. So, unfortunately, I am unable to gain access, and it's a little bit of a sad thing, but it's one of those sort of areas in life, because I understand and 100% respect, the farmer's right to own land, and they're entitled to, it's prime ag land, and not many I guess the argument is not many people use where did it go? Not many people use the national parks, so unfortunately it's better spent on prime production. But it just sucks that, like, Australians don't actually have access to a lot of the national parks and forestries, which is unfortunate. But you gotta respect the farmers. They want to minimise the variables for their their livestock and stuff like that. People have a right to own property, and I'm a firm believer in that. But I feel like the First Nations cultures have it so much more smarter, where there was, you could freely roam the country. There was just sacred sites you had to show respect and revere to. But unfortunately, these days, with our current system, especially in Queensland, a lot of the state forestries and national parks are becoming landlocked. And it's just such a shame, because they're national assets. So, it's a shame we can't go and see them. In the future, I'm going to try and negotiate with the landholders to gain access. It's just very time consuming, because you have to find out who they are and then call them it's one of those things where it's so beautiful out here. That's what it doesn't upset me, but it saddens me that there's so much beauty around to explore, but I'm not allowed off the road because it's all other people's property. So in the future I want to buy land and create national parks and things like that, and have it so that it's free to roam. Because I reckon that's if we want to think about sustainability, private individuals should be investing into rehabilitating the land, because it's beneficial to do that. If we don't, take the First Nations approach to land care and land management, our country is going to be destroyed. There's a really good book that I really enjoyed listening to, which was Dark Emu. I don't remember who the author is, but it's basically, he went through all the accounts of the prospectors and the first pioneers that came to Australia when they moved inland. And the First Nations people and tribes had kept the land in such pristine condition. They had such magnificent ways of, like agriculture and things like that. Like there's accounts of pioneers traveling through and saying they were able to just put their hand through the dirt and pick out yams, because that was, the First Nations agriculture was a lot of yams and stuff like that. And then there's accounts of them, the first settlers, accounts from them of, watching First Nations tribes cull like kangaroos just by using fire and like rock formations. Like, we got to understand that, the First Nations people, prior to, being colonised, were very, very technological in the context of understanding the biodiversity, understanding agriculture, animal, living with different animals. They had many really, really awesome beliefs and traditions around like showing respect and burning the remains of what they killed and things like that. It's very interesting. I think it's a shame that the Australian culture tried to repress and destroy it, because if we didn't, if violence wasn't the option and we didn't look to take and we looked to coexist, Australia would be such a different place. Even not archaeology, but architecturally. The First Nation cultures, there's reports of many, many large dwellings and sophisticated architecture, and very you even look at a lot of the old bush domiciles, that were inspired by the Aboriginal architecture. And you see it, and you see some of these shacks around Australia that are 100 years old, and they're fully they're still 100% solid. Nothing's rotten on them, nothing's gone off them. They're comfortable and cool to live in. It's insane. And it was really eye-opening, because a lot of the First Nations culture and their knowledge was destroyed, because if the white Australians or the British acknowledged it, then we would have to acknowledge the forceful taking of the land and all of that, which is, it wasn't the right way to go about it, because we've almost destroyed the country through our stupidity. We've almost destroyed our culture, our shared culture, and our diversity, and there's many, and the funny thing is that, well, it's not funny, but I just say funny because, to me, it doesn't make sense why, why we thought we were superior. Why did the British think that they were superior? Why was it always violence? Why is it taking it by force? Because all that's done is create a divide. But it's why repress it? We have to accept actions that have been taken and how the country was formed, to respect, especially those that gave their life. Because the thing is the First Nations were right to their claim to the land. That's the thing. And, and their ownership of it. Well, not ownership, but their, they took responsibility for the land, like, we don't even know how long exactly. Like, it's estimated to be like 60 to 80,000 years. So, like, the thing is, you know, how colonization should have worked is it should have been negotiations and, you know, like working to respect their culture and build around that, not destroy their culture and impose the English culture, which was the way, which was very bad, because, you know, that's the way the Americans did it, like, that's the way every country did it, the Spanish, and so much of our ancient knowledge and our ancient practices were lost. Like, you gotta understand, like, the First Nations people prior to colonization had sophisticated ways of utilizing water to filter out toxins from different, like, animals, like fish and stuff like that. Like, you gotta understand, like, to know to leave a fish in water for 2 weeks to filter out, like, toxins, like, that is very, very highly complex understanding and knowledge. Like, you gotta think, like, to just by trial and error to come to that conclusion and understanding, like, how many people would have had to have died? Like, you gotta, like, understand that, like, that would have taken so long to understand that, because, like, you know, like, currently with current technology, we don't know how to take toxins out of anything. Like, we can't take toxins out of mushrooms and make toxic mushrooms edible. Like, we can't, like, we don't understand that. You know, if we invested a lot of time, I'm sure scientifically someone could find a way. But the thing is to have that understanding with such a traditional belief and very, you know, holistic view of nature and everything around and our place in nature. Like, the First Nations people must have had such knowledge prior to like, colonization, like, and Dark Emu does, you know, elaborate a lot on this, which is very good. It just, a lot of the true accounts from the time were destroyed and suppressed, like, and it's just, you know, that's the wrong actions are being taken when they have to suppress, you know, knowledge and people's opinions and points of view and their observations. Because, you know, if you're confident and certain that, you know, you're justified and your actions are just and they're doing the right thing, well, then you wouldn't be concerned with criticism. So, you know, and it's just like the warped view and the repressed narrative that, you know, the Aboriginal, oh, not Aboriginals, but the First Nations were, like, they were fucking sophisticated. Like, there's stories about fish traps to catch very specific types of fish, so that, you know, they were taking such a small portion, even though they were taking so many fish, they were taking very specific ones so that the ecosystem would flourish. Like, there's accounts of how much the ecosystem flourished, and yet, like there is still that knowledge within the First Nations communities, even though it was tried to be exterminated. But, like, it's like, if only we could go back to that sort of a way of life where we're able to harvest, you know, everything we need and more from our surroundings, but we focus so much on regrowth and tending to and harvesting and, like, caring for the land and the ecosystem, that the ecosystem's flourishing. So even though we take a large amount, it's sort of like it's flourishing, so that it's insurmountable how much we take. And that's one of the funny things about the First Nation and all of the, what I say is like the community-based cultures and those, tribal cultures, is they seeked to make their surroundings or their ecosystem flourish so that they flourished. And then when the Western, colonized, when it was colonized by the West, all these different places, the rhetoric went from